Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Publish Creator Podcast. I am here today, of course, talking about the thing I love talking about the most, which is how I help and want to help and support and encourage author creators to get the word out about their books because it's great to create beautiful works, but if no one knows about it, you don't benefit, they don't benefit. It doesn't work for anyone. So today I'm so happy to bring a wonderful new guest to the show today, Lana McAra, and we're going to talk about how to use live events, in-person events, in order to promote our work. I'm a huge proponent of live events. I think they're one of the best untapped secret that many authors today don't really use as well as they should, as we tend to focus everything online. Everything online is great, but there's nothing that beats being able to connect with people in person, face to face. So, Lana, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you, Rodney. I'm so delighted to be with you today. I'm excited about this topic. This is actually the first time I've talked about it in a podcast.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, we had a great conversation. We connected a few weeks ago through a networking group that we're both in and just really hit it off immediately, had some great conversations. And I'm gonna let you, Lana, introduce yourself. Like tell us who you are, what you do, and how you help authors.
Sure. I am the author and ghostwriter of 50 published books. 25 of them are under my own name, and 25 of them are ghostwritten, so they're not under my name. Um, I have been in the book world for more than 35 years. I worked for a publishing company for 12 years as an editor and book coach. I, as far as serving authors, I am an editor and a book coach. So I can fix your book for you, or I can coach you on how to fix it for yourself. And then I also am a ghostwriter. I'll even write it for you. And I'm also a publisher. I have a publishing company called Vandella Publishing. It is a traditional publisher, but we have a different model. And that's really what brought us into the conversation because Vandella Publishing schedules book events for our authors. I've never seen a publishing company do that before. In all the many publishers I've worked with and worked with authors, with publishers, nobody is doing this. So the way we're doing it is really interesting. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, I believe, Rodney.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, I again I'm a huge proponent of this. I say it's really an I think back in the day before social media became such the thing. I published my second book back in 2011, I believe. Facebook had was around 2 years old, I think, at that point. But, you know, dating myself, I published my first book way before even Amazon existed. So if I'm telling on myself, I'm really telling on myself. That's how old I am. But anyway, back in the day when I published that very first book, very grassroots, this is what you did. You went on a book tour and you went around to different places and you talked about your book and audiences came out and met with you directly. And that's how you did it. When social media came along, it became the thing where everyone said, oh, I don't have to travel. I can be online and I can just do it that way. And I thought that was great when it first came on the scene, but then it seemed to shift from kind of removing away from the in-person experience into everything being online. And now I'm noticing what I've been saying for years is that it's not an either or, it's this and to really well round the experience. What's your thoughts about that, Lana?
I definitely agree with you because in all the book launches I've participated in, not only my own, but with other people, I found that the social media aspect of it and even email is just not very effective. You're looking at percentages where a 3% return is considered good. Now, in my opinion, that's not good. But yeah, 3% is considered pretty good. So, and in this day and age, Facebook is only showing your post to about 2% of the people. So if you have 100 people, two of them are actually seeing what you're posting. That's
Right,
so discouraging.
right, right. And if you're relying on that, as many authors, and not just authors, but I would just say business owners in general, rely so much on that being found or discovered, if you will. Something I always tell all of my coaching clients is in terms of marketing, you're going to pay one of two ways. You're going to either pay with cash or sweat. And if you don't have the money or you're not sure what you're doing in regards to spending money on ads and things like that, um, you're really kind of rolling the dice. But what I want to share or get across, and I, want to hear some of your experiences with this, Lana, is I don't care if you're a genius at marketing online. I don't care if you got the ads thing down pat, inside and out, all the keywords, the algorithm changes, you got it all down to like you can just like create a book on that because that's how good you are at it. But to me, in my personal experience, nothing beats the tactile touch point, meet face to face interaction with real live people. And I will even go so far as to say that you having those engagements will actually help you better with your online efforts because you now really know from people who have taken the time to come out with your book and meet you and have those real conversations. It's just intel that I don't think you can solely get strictly online. And so again, not just for sales, but just for information that you need as an online marketer. Plus, you just seeing someone's face when they hold your book. I mean, back in the day when we did all the book tour things, I just thought that was so cool. Like I would go to every time this author would come to town, I'd go to their, to their reading or what have you. I just liked that, and being in community with other people who also had the same passion behind the book as well. I just don't think, even with the best Zoom call, nothing can really beat that experience and that exposure. Um, so, Lana, why don't you tell us about what you've been doing with your authors in regards to helping them actually embrace in-person live events and maybe give us some tips or strategies on what we can do as independent authors to set something like this up for ourselves?
Sure. I came to this because my books have sold more than 1 million copies now, and I've done a lot of marketing over the years. I mean, back in the day when I was having postcards printed and sending them in the mail, we're talking about long ago.
Oh,
And the most effective way that I ever sold books, and I actually made more money on some of my books doing this than I did in royalties, was speaking. Once I got on stage, what everybody would flock to the book table. They would buy out whatever I had brought, and I would walk home with $1,500. And this is back, years ago when $1,500 is worth a lot more than it is now. But of course, I had a lot of titles too. They could walk out with 6, 8 books and not duplicate.
mhm,
So live events, and that wouldn't leave my mind. And so when we started to help authors with this marketing aspect of it, I thought live events, we can't forget live events. And so when we have a book, and it could be fiction or nonfiction, and I'm including fiction here because a lot of times fiction authors are turned away from podcasts and radio interviews and so forth because there's no hook, there's no way to connect to the reader, with the book.
mhm,
So the first step to me would be make sure your fiction book has something of you in it, some interest that you have, a location that you lived, where you lived, or something that you can connect to and say, oh, yeah, the book is set in my hometown, or, something else. Whatever it is, doesn't really matter as long as there's something that you relate to in the book.
mhm,
And then you don't have to be a speaker. And I know this holds a lot of people back. Oh, I can't get on stage. Well, I'm not talking about standing up and giving a speech. I did that back in the day, but you don't have to. What I'm talking about is some interactive method
mhm,
for connecting with the people in the room. This could be something like one of our Vandella authors has This book, it's a quasi memoir where it's fictionalized, but it's really his life story. And he has so many spiritual and supernatural things that happen to him, that one of the things that we suggested for him was that he could get up and say, "Hey, has anybody ever had a supernatural experience here? You know,
Mhm.
tell us what happened to you. Tell us what happened to you." And then people start to share their experiences. Well, now you're having a conversation. Yeah, well, I put in the book about this particular time when this happened, and I couldn't believe it. I thought I was going crazy, but I wasn't. And then the conversation begins and people talk and they interact with you, and the next thing you know, they're walking out with your book. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Find a way to start a conversation with the people in the room and have them leave delighted. They got to talk, they got to express themselves. To give another example, we have a another author who has a book that's actually a cookbook. It's a cookbook, but with a different twist where there's no recipes in it. It's
Interesting.
a cookbook where she gives these principles, and you take your protein, and you take your acid, and you take your fat, and she's got all these different ways that she does it, and put them together, and you're going to come out with something great. So you could go to your refrigerator and pull out leftovers and make something really good. That's her goal. And so she's got two different ideas about
Mhm.
how to do these.
Mhm.
One of them, which I don't know if she's going to do it or not, but my idea was have people bring something from their cupboard,
Mhm.
a can of this, a box of that, and see what they could come up with in the room. They wouldn't necessarily have to cook it, but she could say, "Oh yeah, we could use this box of macaroni and this,
Mhm.
sauce you have in a jar or whatever."
Mhm.
And do something on the fly where people are then participating. She has the idea of maybe having a basket with you pull a piece of paper out of the basket and
Mhm.
that's your ingredient, and then they put them together to make something. There's just so many ways that you could do that with the interactive element. So people feel like they're really participating, that this person's hearing them. And if they have questions, they feel very comfortable. What about this? What about that? My kids won't eat vegetables, whatever. So then you come out in the room like a human being, a personality, someone that lives next door, someone they can talk to and understand. And don't you think they will look you up online? Don't you think they'll want to subscribe to your Facebook page or your mailing list or whatever? And the next time you have something, they'll be there. They're wanting to know what you got going on now, or maybe just say hi after a time. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, interactive presentations.
Exactly. Exactly. Everything you just said, I love, and because it's something that I just repeat so much. If we focus on creating, not you've done the work by developing the book. That's one part of the aspect. Now, to me, the marketing is where the fun begins and where the real creativity kicks in. And where many of us stop ourselves is because we are focusing on trying to get someone to buy something from us. In this case, our book, as opposed to focusing on creating an experience. And it's not about you standing in front of a room of people and just talking to them or at them, I should say, but how can you engage them in an experience? And if you do that and they connect with you, us, as the author creator, the book sells itself because if I feel like I've connected to you, of course, I'm going to want to walk away with something to commemorate that experience. And guess what that walk away is? It's our books. So this is where you can really get really creative and really fun. I'll share something that I'm so glad what you just said about the food idea. So I created a book called Parisian Pastry Adventure. I did it as a passion project that I did last year with Lulu. who I interviewed on the podcast a few weeks ago. And I've had this idea to feature different Parisian themed pastry shops in different cities. And I not right now, I'm currently living in Las Vegas. And believe it or not, there are surprisingly a lot of Parisian themed pastry shops here in this town. I never would have thought in a million years. But I mean, it's like about 20 of them and really quite surprising. And so Airbnb has now launched a new division of their business called Airbnb Experiences. And the owner of the company, Airbnb, was actually interviewed on Drew Barrymore's talk show recently, and he was talking about this new initiative that they have. An inspiration that came to me was to contact these different pastry shops here in Las Vegas and create a sort of a Parisian themed experience where you come and hang out with me and we, order all the different things and learn how to pronounce them correctly because my book also features coloring pages and word search pages. And I'm so excited about the possibility of that because I've sold the book online, but I'm much more excited about going and hanging out with people and us sitting there eating croissants and things that none of us need. But anyway, and enjoying it. But that to me sounds so much more exciting. And what's even could be cooler about it is then people will talk about that, and they'll want to know where can I go to get that. But that's just an example I wanted to share of something I'm personally working on that ties into this conversation, and think about how much more fun that is than me going to do a talk about my book. you know but so anyway, I love what you just shared about that, and I just want everyone to walk away from this thinking, wow, this actually can be really fun, really creative, really cool way. Let me ask you this question, Lana. Where do you recommend, in your experience, people to go to even create an experience like this? Like, is there any tips or suggestions that you have about, of course, I know it's based on the book topic, but you have any ideas around that or things that you've done with your clients that you recommended that they do, have seen them do?
Sure, that's a great question. Well, we always start off with bookstores
Hmm.
and libraries.
Hmm.
Of course, we're a traditional publisher, so the bookstores and libraries can access our books through their system. But even indie authors, some bookstores will still open their doors to local authors, as and the libraries, most of them, I can't speak for all of them, but most of them are very author friendly.
Hmm.
And so we have some libraries in our area here in North Central Florida that invite authors to come in for these kind of talks. It gives them a reason to bring people into the library, and they are actually quite well attended. There's a friend of mine who does a talk. She has a middle grade book. It's a chapter book for like fourth grade through sixth grade. I've read it. I love it. Adults like it too. But it's a historical novel about the Appalachian Mountains and the way that the Native Americans were mistreated during the certain time period, I guess 1700s or something. And so she dresses up in a historic costume as one of the side characters. She's not the main character, she's a side character. She doesn't talk about what's in the book. She talks about this side character's life, where she grew up, how they washed clothes, what they did, her regrets in her life, where she made some poor decisions and now she wishes she hadn't done that, and friends of theirs that were mistreated during this, time in history. She just talks. She doesn't have a quote unquote speech made up. She said the name of her talk is Meet Mary, because her name is Mary in the book. And so you come and you meet Mary, and Mary just stands there and talks about her life. And then people ask questions. And then she'll mention one of the main characters. Well, Thomas, when he was a boy, he did this or that. And people are flocking to her talks. Now she's got a Meet Mary too, where she goes into the second book in the series. She talks about some of that.
Hmm.
And then she started a YouTube channel where she's videotaping herself. I'm old school now, she's recording herself um as Meet Mary and putting it up. And she says that now, well, she's making her second round through all the library branches. There's like 15 branches of libraries, and she just goes from one to the other. And now people are coming into those meetings and they are coming to her table before the event to buy books. So
Mm-hmm.
she's got a line at her table before the event.
Mm-hmm.
Then she completes with them. She goes over, she does her talk, and the rest of the people come up to buy her books. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. And she doesn't have any preparation. She has a nice display with some historic items from the time that make her table look interesting. She's got a trifold hat with three sides and some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's easy for her. She doesn't have a lot of preparation. She doesn't have a lot of stuff to haul in. She goes in, sets up her little table. She
Mm-hmm.
stands up there in her costume and talks. So libraries, don't eliminate libraries. And
Yes.
the same thing goes for bookstores. Now there's the big bookstores don't really, if you want to get into Barnes and Noble, there's a different tactic for that, but they're probably not going to be too open to doing these kind of presentations. They could be. You don't know until you try because each store has its own manager and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I know Books a Million is very author friendly. The only thing is you have to be in their system. They don't cater to indie authors much. So check your bookstores. If you give them an idea, I have this presentation. This is how it works. Here's a picture of me in front of a room doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That will give them a little more motivation to have you come in because they can see that you're doing this is something that you do and it's worked for you before. So also mention that you will do promotion. Whenever I go to some place, I always spread it out to my social media. I also tell my friends I belong to a local authors group and I'll tell them and maybe put a press release out. Now, press releases still work. They're not old-fashioned and they do work. We still put out press releases to bring people into your event. So telling them you'll promote is another big way to get in. But that's not the only way. I'm getting ready in January to put out a book that's a Western historical novel. It's a romance novel with a mystery in it. And so my plan is to contact the local shops that sell horse equipment, cowboy boots, any of that kind of paraphernalia that people who love horses and that kind of thing where they would go. There's a Western fair here. I'm going to get involved in that. And I'm going to see what we can do because if they have any events throughout the year, like homecoming or something where they have, like an open thing where they have stuff for the kids and all this, believe me, I will be there. So that gives me an open door because I am part of their market. And someone else gave me another idea. It's a guy that is in my writing class. I teach a writing class at the local library, by the way. So he raised his hand and he said, if you women who sell romance novels would come to the gun shows, these men bring their wives, and their wives are so bored. And if there was someone there selling romance novels, I guarantee the women would be over there looking at those books. Isn't that a great idea?
Oh my God, I never would have thought of that in a million years. That is so. When you first said it, I was like, romance novels at a gun show? What does that have to do with anything? And then when you said the part, that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. See, that just to me, everything you just shared to me is goes back to what I said a few minutes ago about we are not just writers, we're not just authors. Hence why I call the show, why I call my brand the published creator. We are creators. Our creativity doesn't stop once the book is in our hand. And now I have to take off my creative hat and put on my marketing hat or my business hat. I have to put that on. And it's all one ecosystem because the book is only as good, as I said at the top of the conversation, as people knowing about it and looking for those opportunities to put ourselves in front of our readers, not in a I will work for food sign, but
Yeah, I
because
get
I
that.
think a lot of us really struggle with that. We think that we're asking for something like we're begging for a handout. And you've taken the time and the energy to create something that clearly at some point you believed, at least I hope you believed in it. And so there's opportunities all around us all the time. It's just a matter of, I said this at the top of the year, I do an annual retreat for my group where we kind of reset for the year. This year I called the treat Envision. And the thing that I walked away with everyone was people hear all the time, they say, think bigger. I'm like, I'm not sure much about thinking bigger, but I am about thinking different, think differently. I wouldn't have associated some of the things that you shared as really opportunities to get your book out. Now, of course, there's the obvious, but many people, though, I don't even think they know. The library, when I was a kid, was my church. But I don't think people right now really even know their libraries. Are libraries still around? And they are actively looking to bring bodies in the room. That's one of the first places that I would go. Second, obviously, is bookstores. But what I also love what you said, Lana, was you're going to the stores, even though the store doesn't sell the retail spots where they don't necessarily sell books, but like they sell the items or whatever that is that relates to the subject of the book. So if you've got a book on cooking or food, then see if there's any cooking shops or anything, around that. If it's, I have a client right now that is all about planting trees. And I'm like, okay, are you involved in the Arbor Society? Are you involved in any kind of, nature related or in environmental initiatives? Those could be places like she doesn't have to talk about the book. She can just go there and like, let's plant a tree day. Oh, and by the way, I happen to be the author of, the other thing I want to say about that is we have to also think about our identity. What I mean by that is when we're talking to people, and I've said this, you and I said this to you and I privately, I don't care what you do for a living. If you do taxes, if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, if you drive Uber, don't tell people that's what you do. When someone asks, what do? You say, I'm an author. And that's all you need to say because the next part of that comes, what's your book about? Boom. We never know who we're talking to. That person may know someone that knows somebody that could put you in the room or in an organization or an event or a business, a local business that you never would have thought of. And I'm a real big proponent of when we as creatives get stuck, we get stuck when we ask, I don't know how to do something. My premise is stop asking how to do something and ask who can help me get my initiative out there. And if you ask that question, the who always appears. You don't have to know who it is, just say, who can help me with my book on my romance novel? If you'd have told me that a million years to go to a gun show, I would have been like, what? Wouldn't that never would have occurred to me? But imagine how many books that author probably sold because of something that it's not an obvious thing that you would connect with. So the who is always more important to me than the how. There's a book by Dan Sullivan. I'll put the link in the show notes here called Just that question, not who, I'm not mangling the title, but not who, but how. Not how, but who. Ask that question, like put it out there in the world, and the who will show up. And I just love what you're saying because it just sounds like so much fun to me. It just sounds like fun. It's like, you've written your book and you're sitting at home with it by yourself. It's like going get out there and meet people and talk to people and engage with people because people they want our work. And we're cheating them and we're cheating ourselves of the experience. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say too, Lana, that you inspired me to was the best content that you can post on social media is when you do these in-person experience and you have that recorded and then you share those clips on social media because then people look at them and go, oh, I want to go to the next one she does or the next one that he does. So that's a great way to line the two together up, not just announcing I'm going to be there, but actually, if with permission, of course, you have to ask permission before you can videotape people and post it. But say,
Mhm.
hey, I'd like to share this on my Facebook or on my Instagram or on my TikTok, you know, invite them to get in the camera and hold a book in their hand and see what they're doing or whatever. And that's going to also help you sell and help you to get in other events because you can show that to other business owners and say, hey, this is what happened at such and such store. So, did you have any? I'm just getting so excited as you can tell. But anyway, any other stories or ideas or experiences that you have with your authors along these lines that's helping them to?
Yes, I have a book coming out this month, which, I have a lot of books coming out. As you could tell, I got one in January. I have one this month. Um, it's about a girl who gets caught up. It's a thriller. And it's about, this is a little different spin on it that I want to share with you. Um, she's running from the CIA, the FBI, the Mossad, the Russians. I mean, she's running from everyone. The name of the book is Run, Cindy, Run, because everybody's chasing her. And it's set in central Arizona, and I wasn't really sure how to spin this. What do I do with this? Because I'm not a computer geek. She is, and she's got the computer code, and everybody wants it, that kind of thing. And so we meet every Monday night. Our publishing company meets with all the authors and we brainstorm ideas. And this is what I got from someone. He said, why not get a couple of some of the men in our group, big burly guys, get them a costume that has a blue jacket with FBI on the back and have them go around at the book festival or at the fair, which what I'm going to do is in December I'm going to be at a craft fair, Christmas crafts fair with this book. And just have them walk around and say, have you seen Cindy? We're looking for Cindy. Have you seen Cindy? And then at the booth, have a sign, run, Cindy, run.
I love it.
I'm going to try it. I am definitely going to try it. I think that is the
Got to
most.
come back and tell us how that goes. I love that so much. See, think about, I mean, as you're listening to what we're saying right now, I just want you, as you're listening, back to what I said a second ago about thinking differently. But the other part of that I want to say is have fun. Because if you're not having fun with it, then you're probably not doing it right for you. But if you have fun with it, people are going to connect to your energy because you're having fun with it. And then they get to connect with you. And then they can connect with you in what you do. And then when they see that there's something that they can physically walk away with, a piece of you, and you never had to ever once say, you want to buy a copy of my book, please, sir, like Oliver Twist. you
This is
know,
fun. This is so fun, kicking up these ideas and thinking of what you could do and planning with your author friends and just going in and setting up and you've got this feeling of excitement. It's so different than
Yeah.
getting there with your box of books and dragging in and setting up and standing behind the table while people walk past you and don't even look. I mean, it's a different world.
It's a different world. I thought of something that I'd forgotten about. There's an author who I followed for years. He's still around. But he when he created his first book, the advance that the publisher gave him, he used it and did a 50-state book tour. And he basically put the call out that he was going to be, and it was the whole promotion plan was about, I'm going to go to all 50 states. And he didn't do a reading. He just wanted to connect with people that it knew about him and knew about the book and want to connect. And when I say he went from everything from a well, I actually went to the Beverly. Well, he went from everything from a Beverly Hills mansion to a strip club. I was actually at the Beverly Hills mansion party. That's how I know about that. But when he said I was at the Beverly Hills mansion with hundreds of people there to a strip club with basically the dancer and one other person and a bucket of wings, but he said, if anyone who read my book shows up, I'll hang out with you. He didn't read from the book. He just wanted to meet with people. What ended up happening was somebody at one of the gatherings, I want to call it readings, had the idea to make homemade cupcakes. And he mentioned it on his website in his media that someone brought cupcakes to one of the gatherings. And that became a trend. And so when he did his next book, he kept doing that same marketing model. And he said, oh, and by the way, I'm going to be in such and such on this day, this day. Oh, and by the way, there might be cupcakes. He never ordered them. He never bought them. Just someone would just bring them, you know. But
Yeah.
it's those little things like that, those little details like that, that just opened up my eyes to how much fun we as author creators can have in our dare I say in our marketing. And I would suggest is to shift what that means to you. When you hear the word marketing, do you tense up? Do you think, oh God, I gotta sell? Do you start think, or do you take what we're talking about today and start to think differently and put on your creativity hat? And it doesn't matter how many people show up, because if you keep doing it, it'll pick up momentum and voice on its own. And I just want everyone listening to enjoy the fruits of their labor by connecting with the people who are connecting with what you've created, what we've created. Lana, do you have any other suggestions or tips or stories about anyone that you've worked with? Or I love that. Oh my God, run, Cindy, run. Have you seen Cindy? You got to come back and tell us how that worked. I can't wait to hear about that one. That was brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I'm really excited
Any,
about that one.
any other stories or ideas or suggestions, or just for someone to add on what I've spoken about? Any suggestions or tips that someone can do to start to get their wheels spinning about this topic?
Yes, a couple of things. First of all, be systematic, do some Google searches, check out places and put on your thinking cap, you know. I have been driving down the highway, the interstate, and I see a billboard and I'm pulling out my phone to make a verb because I can't type. Make a verbal recording of don't forget this place because that looks like it would be an opportunity for me to go for some event there.
Mhm.
That kind of be on the alert, keep aware, be aware of your surroundings, and then the other piece of it is be ready because when you go to these things, how are you going to capture their email address? How are you going to stay in touch? Do you have a sign up sheet? Do you have a giveaway? Do you have some way for them to
Mhm.
continue to stay in touch with you?
Mhm.
So be ready for that because you don't want them walking out and you can't get a hold of them ever again.
Yes.
They want to stay in touch with you. So, you know, get that clipboard, get those email addresses or whatever it is that you set up to do. So, those two things, be always prepared to find new places and stay in touch with them.
Mhm. I'm so glad you brought that up, as I want to circle back to that. So that's one of the things I really specialize in with my students of my programs is, well, because we write books, I think one of the best calling cards we could actually ever have is a bookmark. It's an unusual shape. It's not a business card that can be kind of thrown in a wallet or a drawer and forgotten about. Um, it's a postcard is great, but postcards can be tacked with a magnet on the refrigerator and maybe kind of forgotten about. Maybe not. I shouldn't say that. But a bookmark actually is, because of its shape, you actually kind of have to use it in some kind of way, typically inside of a book. And every one of my students who have ever used bookmarks in their marketing has always done well, to get people to remember them. And with bookmarks, like I said, you can put a QR code on the bookmark on one side of it. It can be full color on both sides. You can do that. And then when you're out there talking to people, you can hand them a bookmark and they can click on that QR code and go over to your website, your landing page. I personally recommend having a dedicated landing page where the only thing they can do is give you their contact information in exchange for maybe a chapter sample, or if it's an activity book, maybe there's like, a couple of pages from the book that they can download right away. And that gets them in your ecosystem. The one thing that I implore you not to do is to send people directly to, let's say, Amazon to go buy your book without you collecting their contact information ahead of time. After you collect their name and email address, you can redirect them anywhere you want to send them. You can send them to Amazon or wherever, or your website, wherever the book is located. But get the contact information, because, again, as you do these experiences, as you have these events, perhaps they can come if they're in your local community, or if not, they can at least, in your emails you send out, you can send them over to your social media platform so they can see the content that you made at your last live event. Hint, hint. And so they can see what fun they're missing out on. But now they're part of your ecosystem. And then your book and subsequent books you write, guess who your first prospects are? The people that are on your email list. The other thing I wanted to add on to that too is creating win-win experiences for the businesses that you approach. In my experience, what I love about local businesses so much is that the number one thing that a local business wants is foot traffic. It That in and of itself opens up the door instantly for us. Because if we can co-create an event that we do in their business that brings bodies in the door, yes, they'll meet you and perhaps buy your book, but they'll also shop. Well, guess what then happens? That business now has an incentive to promote you being there, because they are trying to find a new, fresh way to bring people in the door. So that to me is why I think the local business opportunity, or conventions or associations or whatever, is just a ripe opportunity for us. And you don't have to be a speaker. There might be organizations that want you to deliver a presentation, and that's up to you. But yeah, anything you want to add to that, Lana? Because I think that's just such another thing that a lot of us, as far as our follow up with people, gets kind of missed in the process.
Yes, absolutely. And this is where the difference between being a one-off author with one book and being a career author where you're producing books periodically, whether it's once a year, once every 2 years, whatever it is, because you always have a new product coming out.
Hmm.
And so once you have been at a location, then you can support that location by saying, I've got another book, I'll contact everyone. And you're building. You see how you're building this following? You're building the reader base. so
Mhm.
that you are automatically selling your next books. So look at it as a long game. And I work with authors all the time and I urge them, look at this as a long game. If you have one book out, you go to a book signing, it doesn't work out, don't be discouraged. Be starting book two because you need to have something else to add to it and just keep going because my philosophy about being a writer, if you have this in your heart to do this, it's not easy. It's tough thing to
Mhm.
get into, tough thing to do, but you have it in your heart, you're not making it up. You're
Mhm.
not crazy. You're not living a pipe dream. You have a calling. You have an internal drive
Yes.
that is propelling you forward with this
Mhm.
message that you have in your heart, and
Mhm.
you want to get it out there. So
Mhm.
let's look at this as something that you're going to do consistently over a period of years. You're going to build it. You're going to go and go and go because you're living your purpose. It
Mhm.
isn't about how many people showed up, how many people bought the book tonight. That's where we get hung up, right?
Mhm.
It's about this process of reaching people and more people, one here, one there, five here, 10 there, 100 here, 100 there, and build it
Mhm.
so then when you have an off night, something doesn't go very well, you don't get discouraged. You're
Mhm.
like, well, I met the owner of the store. I showed up. I
Mhm.
learned some things,
Mhm.
and now we're going on to the next. And next time I have an event, I'll contact this person and say, well, I've got book number two coming. Let's try it again. I'll put out more. I've been doing this now for a while. Let's keep going and keep that door open. So think of it as a long game and a calling,
Yeah.
and you will be able to stay. We're talking now, I've been doing this for over 30 years. Believe me, I have been to some events that really tanked, but, not all of them tanked.
Mhm.
And now, I have a body of work that I can bring to the table, and so can you. I was a housewife. I don't have a degree in creative writing. I was an English major. I had an English in college. It was English for me, not writing. Writing and English are two different things, by the way.
Yes.
And yeah, I wasn't really, I didn't have a leg up. Nobody in my family was published before. I was a stay-at-home mom that I had a dream and I had a calling in my heart.
Mhm.
And you can do it too. You absolutely can. So don't limit yourself.
Mhm. And to add to that, when you said it's a long game and it's tough at times, and it doesn't always work out the way we hoped or dreamed or thought it would, but you know what else is tougher? Is being in a job just to pay the bills that you can't stand. And you look up because the 5 years, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, however willing, however long you're allowed to be here, it's going to pass anyway. So why not work for something that really lights you up, really like you said it perfectly, Lana, is the calling. When I did my first book back 30 years ago, I've always loved books. Like I said, like the library was my church. I was the consummate nerd. The only thing I didn't have was glasses, but I was that person. And I always, always, always loved books. And I always knew that I was going to work in publishing in one form or another, pretty much since I was a kid in one form or another. It was going to be books or a magazine or something, but I always knew I'd be doing this. And when I did my first book, it tested every aspect of my being. I mean, this was pre-Amazon, none of this print on demand. What was that? It was like I did my book on a rented computer because I didn't even have a computer to even write the book on. I did every aspect of it. Living in Los Angeles at the time with no car, going to meet designers and this on a bus. But I was committed with a job that I could not stand. And that job motivated me to keep going. I'd get off work and go to Kinko's and I'd print and I'd lay out, and, everything I had to do. Then once I got the book done, guess what? I had to sell it. So I had to call bookstores. And I remember when I got my ISBN number, it was a set of sticker sheets that they sent me. I had to put the labels on the back of the books. But when I sold books was when I went and did talks. That's what made it go. You've got to want this. This can't be something that you're just doing because you're bored. You've got to really want this. And I'm sharing all of my history with it is I think because the process to go from idea to tangible in your hand has really shortened dramatically, even now with tools with AI and all this other stuff going on. That's another interview for another for another time. But anyway, but the point is that for many author creators, I think subconsciously we believe our work is done once the book is up on Amazon. And that Amazon's this magic genie that we're going to rub the side of it and it's going to just dramatically bring all these sales in the door. And you may get some just because you pick the right keywords and algorithm is favoring you that day or what have you. But that's not a long-term marketing strategy. I always say look at that as a fulfillment center. They will ship the book out and process the order for you, but that's not their job to market your book. That's our job. So if we're going to do this, embrace all of it, every aspect of it. And the one thing I want to add to what you've said is start thinking about these things as you're working on the book, not after it's done. Start thinking about who can I go to, who can, what events, what libraries, what organizations, what stores, start thinking about that and introduce yourself that way. Because again, if you tell people, hey, I'm working on a book, what's the book about? You tell them what the book is about. Oh, when it's ready, let me know. You know, you're starting to build up that momentum as you're working on it so that it's not like, okay, the book is done. Okay, I'm done. No, my friend, you're just getting started. You're just getting started. Now the real fun begins. Literally, the real fun begins. So, Lana, do you have any closing thoughts, ideas, suggestions, tips for our listeners today to walk this journey?
As we were talking here about calling and purpose, it took me back to an old Dear Abby um, column, the Dear Abby column, where in the newspaper where people would write their questions in, and Dear Abby would answer the question.
Mhm.
And this one person wrote in, and for this Dear Abby thing, it was about going to college, but we're talking about books, so we can just take it over to books. But this person said, I'm 35 years old and I want to go back to college. I want to go to college. I never had a chance. I had to go to work, but I'm 35 years old. If I go to college now, by the time I get out, I'll be 39 years old. And I feel like I'll be too old to start now. At our age, Rodney, we're thinking, that's young.
What
But
I
for
want to do
this
is just one of
person,
these numbers like
yeah, exactly. But for this person, 4 years and I'll be 39 years old. And Abby had one sentence response, and I never forgot it. She said, how old will you be in 4 years if you don't go to college? So when we think it's hard, when we think, this is going to take some effort.
Mhm.
Well, if you don't do it, where will you be in 10 years? Will you be sitting in front of your TV and all of a sudden realize, wow, a decade's gone by and what do I have to show for it? A job I hate and a life I don't enjoy? That's what's on the other side. So, yeah, let's put in the effort. Let's get busy. Let's
Mhm.
go for it and let's get some ideas and have some fun.
Fun.
Let's do it.
That's it. And I'll say, out to land the plane. This is one of my favorite phrases I love to use to land the plane on this conversation is even if you don't quote unquote make it, whatever that means to you, make it. I still don't regret any of the projects that I've worked on because it's not about, and this is something I say all the time, it is really not about the book. It really, at the end of the day, I know we're talking about books in this conversation, but it really isn't about the book. It's about who we become as a result of going through this process from believing in something long enough to create a product around it to how we get it out there in the world, the people we connect with. Were any of my books New York Times bestsellers? No. Did I make a ton of money with my books? No. But each one built up another piece in me that kept me going 30 plus years later. I was actually was 30 years or 29 years ago when I did that first book. And yeah, it was rough and yeah, it was traumatic. And yes, at the time I said I'd never do this again, and I didn't for a really long time. But then when all of the new on print on demand tools and all of the more of where my heavy lifting came from was because it was so old school. I mean, you literally had to go to a printer and pay for a print run, which I didn't have the money to do. So I did my own version of print on demand, which at that time was Kinko's. I would print the book up one and one off as I got orders for it, or I would get multiple copies made and I'd have them staple. And, I did saddle stitch and that's how I did it. So I actually did do print on demand before all the other guys came onto the scene. The point is not, that's not so much the point. The point I want to make is the time is going to go by anyway, God willing. If you think you feel bad now because you're projecting what you think is going to happen at 39, what I wish, like 39, yeah, I'll be 62 soon. But think about how much worse you'll feel because when it really becomes real, as the kids say, when it gets really real, like you're like getting ready to check out of here, you'll go, dang, I should have wrote that book. Dang, I should have went back to school. Dang, I should have taken that trip. Dang, I should have, that you don't want, that's the kids say, you don't want that. You don't want that. If it's on your heart and you keep seeing it, or when you see someone that's succeeding in something and you feel a way about it every time it comes up, that's a signal that that's something that's important to you. And myself, Lana, there's communities out there, there's resources out there, there's no excuse. And you don't have to go to college and get a degree to do this. You just have to have an idea, something you're passionate about, and the willingness to ask for help. The links will be in the description for where you can contact Lana, you can contact me, and we'll champion you and cheer you on and support you in any way we can. But it's up to you to take what we're giving you and go for it. And I'm going to land it with this and have fun. Just have fun. If you do that, that's you're golden in my book, no matter what your age. All righty. Well, thank you, Lana, so much for being with us today. And I really enjoyed this conversation. And I look forward to you got to come back and tell us how that spy event went, because that one I'm really excited about.
Thank you, Rodney. Thank you so
Hearing how
much.
that goes. So we'll see you on the next episode of the podcast. And in the meantime, keep writing, keep creating. All right, take care. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop the recording.